Welcome to another edition of On Your Own Reviews. Today we're going to go back to anime because, so many people seem to love Your Name review. And we're going to go to 2001, and actually this is probably one of my most favorite anime movies to date. It really has held up, and I'm talking about nothing. I'm talking about the anime a version of Osamu Taxi's Metropolis. Metropolis is done by two very famous directors. One, Rincaro, the director of Galaxy Expressway 999. The other one was done by the person who did Akira Otomo. If I pronounce any of these names wrong, I'm an American. Deal with it. Metropolis came to us in 2001. No, it has nothing to do with the fifth slang Metropolis that came out in Germany back in 1937 or 1947. This is a story based on the manga that took a lot of liberties to make. Basically, it's the story of a rich man by the name of Duke Red taking time out to ask a Dr. Lawton to remake his daughter as a robot so that she can sit upon the throne, so of course he can take over the world. Chasing Dr. Lawton is a detective by the name of Shinju Ban, along with his nephew Kenichi. Along the way they find the robot who's trying to be Duke Red's daughter by the name of Tima. And we go on to, follow this study until the end. And I have to say, this movie is really good. It has its issues, though. Let's get into the issues first, because they shouldn't sway you from watching this movie. Some of the problems is, one, this movie is filled with a lot of stories. There's the Duke story, there's Dr. Lawton's story. It kind of has a little bit too much story in it, which is amazing. No one has really any backstory, but that's not an issue considering the fact that this story kind of lets everything happen naturally. The problem is there's a little bit too many plots in this story. The revolution plot has no bearings on anything. While it could have made the movie stronger story-wise, it kind of takes away focus from our main characters. Our main characters are actually a lot of fun to watch, to look at, and their interactions are actually really good. We have our main character is actually not the detective, it's his nephew Kenichi, and his interplay with Tima, the robot daughter of Duke Red, is actually kind of fun, and it's very interesting because you have to realize these are both kids probably in their early teens, like around 13, 14, no older than that. And they kind of have this thing together, and the vibe is always there for them, and it's kind of puppy love, which is kind of endearing. Shinjuku Ban is perfectly fine as what he is, which is an old school detective, and he even points it out at times where he goes, he says a thing like the bad guys always come back to the scene of the crime, and he even admits it. That's cliched, but it works for his character because he's a cliched detective. He's somewhere between Sherlock Holmes, MacGyver, by the end of the movie, and Leslie Nielsen in the Naked Gun movies. He's that type of character. But it's perfectly fun because he's enjoyable. He's completely enjoyable to watch. Duke, there's a lot of people who have tragic backstories in this movie. None of it gets delved into, but just the way it's presented and the way they interact with each other, you don't really need that because you don't need a 4-hour version of this movie. There's a lot of death in this movie. If you're gonna watch this thinking, oh, it's your typical anime movie with super violence, super nudity, no. This is shot in a very Disney-like manner where violence happens, but none of it is really on screen. And a lot of it is just, assumed violence, where you'll see someone shoot someone and you'll see that they got hit, but one, you won't see any puncture wounds, and two, you don't really see any blood. So that's pretty good for people who are going to watch this outside of their normal crew. Like, you can totally see this with a child. You'll get some questions because there are some dark themes in this movie, but it's nothing too intense that you'll say, I wouldn't watch this. Another character who has a tragic backstory is Rock. Rock is Duke Red's... He calls him his father, but he's not. He's someone he found. Once again, they don't go back into Rock's story, but his dedication to Duke Red, you totally feel bad for this character. At the same time, he is a jerk, so he is a totally suitable villain. There's too much story. The Revolution story really didn't need to happen. I understand why it happened. It totally makes sense why it was put into this movie, but it was gone way too quick. It was handled as a MacGuffin, and it kind of took away focus from the main characters. Because you had Atlas, this whole revolution didn't need to be there. End of story. The music is beautiful. There are very few anime that I would recommend going out and buying the soundtrack to. It'd probably be anything Evangelion. That's a given. Akira, just because of its booming sound and it sounds epic. This is definitely one of them. Between this blend of jazz, pop, and soul music, this is very well. The main theme to this song, There'll Never Be Goodbye, is an absolute beauty, and they actually use it in this movie several times, just without the lyrics, or they'll tone it down, they'll underscore it perfectly acceptable. The visuals in this movie, the characters are they're not super deformed, but they are deformed, as in they have Popeye-like characters where their forearms would be like this big, their elbows would be like this, and then their biceps would be like this. So it's remember, this is based on a manga from the 40s, so you have to they kind of get it their way, but the animation is actually beautiful. This is coming from the same guy who did Akira, so the animation, and 16 years later it still holds up. There's a lot of CGI. For about 90% of it works, and it still holds up. Once again, Akira is almost 40 years old now. Still looks better than any anime that's out there right now. The CGI in this movie is excellent. It blends in fine. There's one scene in particular where they're in the ziggurat, this creation that Duke Red made, and the floor plan looks totally out of place compared to the 2D animation that is happening. So there's that on it. I would be remiss if I were to talk about the ending. Damn it, anime, why do you do this? To take beautifully written songs that have nothing to do and make it absolutely perfect for the scene that it's in, despite the fact that they're at opposite ends. I won't spoil the ending for you, but there's a moment where the Ray Charles song comes on, I Can't Stop Loving You. And because of the characters who are in that scene, absolutely punctuates how how hard-hitting that scene is. The last 15 minutes are probably the best moments in this movie. It kind of, every time I hear that moment, it always makes me cry. Or it brings tears to my eyes, I should say. It does the same way when I first saw it back in 2001, and in 2017 I feel no different. It is excellent. That closing scene. I kind of wish they would have threw in the ending to the anime version, or to the Japanese version. I won't say what the photo is because that would kind of be spoiling the movie. So I would say that. Precursor, this is a PG-13 movie. All the violence is done off screen. There's no real blood in this movie. So I would, being an 80s child, I would totally dumb this down to PG. Almost G. But, I'll say PG. If you're going to go out and buy this movie, I would suggest checking your Blu-ray settings. While Sony Pictures released a Blu-ray version of it this year, it is a Blu-ray R. So it might not work in every Blu-ray player. It works in mine. I have a Sony Blu-ray player, so it works fine. For those of you who don't have it, are kind of worried about whether if you buy it it'll work or not, the DVD version is still available on Amazon.com. It's only like $8, $8.50, something like that. But go out of your way to see it. Animation is beautiful. While the storytelling can be bogged down by too many stories at one time, it still is a lot of fun when you concentrate on the main character. Even the bad guys, you kind of feel for the bad guys in this movie. You kind of feel like they're not bad guys. So I would go off of that. Animation's top quality. What would you expect from the people who did Galaxy Expressway 39 and Akira? So the ending is definitely worth it. This movie's close, it's 2 hours long. At times you can feel it, but once you get to probably the latter half of it, you totally feel emotionally invested in it, and the ending itself is just a beauty to watch. So I'm gonna have to give Metropolis 9.2. It does a lot right, and when it does right, it absolutely hits all marks. So go out and see it. Let me know what you... Oh, also I'm doing a section where I'm going to ask people what they want me to review, whether it's anime, American animation, live action movies. We'll be doing a lot of that soon. I have me and Raul doing King Arthur tomorrow. Me and Jeff will be doing... we'll actually be doing a joint review of The Lost City of Z coming up in the next couple of days, since he actually got to see it with me. My coworker Arsalan, he was the one who recommended that I watch Teen Titans Judas Contract, so thank you for making me want to shoot myself after watching that movie. If you want me to review a movie, leave a comment below. Until then, see you next time, and hopefully in the next couple of days I get to say, you cracked me up, little buddy. Peace out, people.